I know. National Youth Leadership Conference. There was a lot of people.
And they were still like, come on.
And
come
so
together.
the first session, the speaker was like, turn to your neighbor and high five.
Oh, no.
And so everybody was like, maybe
really.
a fist bump, an elbow, and then I was whipping out the hand sanitizer.
There you
I was
go.
like, they crazy.
There you
Talking
go.
about high five your neighbor and go greet 2 or 3 people that you don't know. I was like, oh, Lord. So it was a crazy week. What about you?
So as a financial advisor, you probably have seen the stock market. So it's been
Yeah.
a very, very busy week for me. So yeah, it's all good though. All good.
God is faithful.
Yeah.
For me, I would say, I mean, we try to do business as usual, but it just seemed like as the week kept going on, progressing and progressing, more and stuff kept getting canceled, publicly, and then in the office too. We were like, okay, all right, y'all, so, but yeah, I mean, I think everybody's trying to keep a level head, as you should, honestly, especially if you're a person of faith, but I'm really believing that, if anything, this is just an opportunity for us to lean into God more, because it's just one more thing that we're not in control of. And it's just a reminder, we're not in control,
Yes.
So like really to trust God and to, and to lean into him during this time. So, but yeah, exercise wisdom too, of course, do your elbows, your fist bumps, whatever you need to do, and, and stay home as much as you can, especially if you're not feeling well. Honestly, you need to stay home. That's with or without this whole pandemic going on. Like really, if you're not feeling well, stay home. And I know a lot of workaholics are like, okay, I can't. Yes, you can, and you need to, not just for you, but for everybody that's around you. So,
Thankfully, I work from home already, so it's just transition. Like, it's interesting seeing other teachers having to learn how to digitally like teach their children for the next like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is what I do all the time.
There you go. You're like, I got it. I got a leg up on this. So, all right. Well, let's jump in. 15 minutes late, but we're going to jump in nonetheless. And we took last week off. Y'all was celebrating my anniversary. I was booed up last weekend.
Happy anniversary.
Thank y'all. 6 years strong and many more to go. So shout out to my hubby, Chris, a.k.a. DJ Jeremiah. All right, so we'll jump in. This month, we're actually going to be focusing on finances. If you're a woman of purpose, if you're a woman of vision, you're trying to secure that bag. So we're trying to figure out, what does it take, from a practical stance? What are some steps you can take even if you're an entrepreneur? We're going to be talking about that later on in the month. So all that good stuff. But this week in particular, we're talking about financial wisdom. And we are joined by none other the Rhonda Jones of Edward Jones Investments. So I actually want to share a little bit of her bio because it's so incredible. She is a financial advisor with Edward Jones Investments, and the firm basically serves nearly 7 million clients, and they manage over $1 trillion in assets. The firm was ranked highest in investor satisfaction in 2019 by J.D. Power, and as a financial advisor, Rhonda believes it's important to invest time in understanding the goals of her clients, as well as working towards and what they're working towards before investing their money. So that's great. Thank you for wanting to, not have a cookie cutter approach, if you will. And of course, we know the financial world can sometimes feel like foreign territory, which is why she's here today to give us some wisdom. But she works one-on-one to help determine the most appropriate financial strategy for her clients and their families. So we are blessed to have her here today, and we're going to talk financial wisdom 101. We're going to start with the basics, and we're going to try to cover every spectrum of life, because I genuinely believe that financial wisdom is something that you can begin teaching your children, and then through every stage of life, even when you're in college, even, in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and on. So we're going to kind of hit each one of those stages, touch on them a bit, and kind of hopefully gain some financial wisdom. So we want to give you a warm welcome.
All right. Well, I am happy to be here. Should I come up to this mic?
Yes, as long as you're talking into the mic, you're good.
Okay.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, so I'm happy to be here. excited to share things that you can do at every stage of your life, because what you do today makes a difference in the future.
Absolutely.
And so the earlier you understand financial principles, financial foundational principles, the better you can be in the future.
Great. So let's start off. First of all, how did you get into financial planning? Like what made you even want to go down this path?
Okay, great question. So I actually started as a director of finance in a corporate setting.
Okay.
And I was certified, in addition to that, to teach business classes and finance classes at the college level. And so they added a course to the curriculum. And you know how in college you have these little nice titles, and the students don't necessarily know what they're going in to study. So it was a personal finance class, and it was one of the most engaging classes, you just talked about teaching, that I've ever done, where they wanted to know about, because we studied stocks, bonds, mutual funds, insurance, estate planning, you name it. And they would come in with their credit scores. I'm like, don't share it with people, but we're going to talk about it. They'd go home and share it with their family, and so it was very engaging. In that course, it got me interested in just really understanding a little bit more about that side of the industry, the personal finance. And in the class, there's a segment where you go and you interview a financial advisor and learn about working with a professional. And there was mixed feelings, because some of the students came back a little discouraged. One, because they didn't see a lot of people who looked like them across the table. So they, kind of felt like, I don't know if they were taking me seriously, when I was asking questions. And then secondly, there had to be a certain net worth, before they'd actually answer a lot of their questions.
Wow.
So as I did my own research, I said, I'd like to be that face on the other side of the table, to be able to help anyone who's interested in having financial goals and reaching them. And so that's what I did. I made the transition, and I love what I do, and I wouldn't go back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And thank God you made that choice, because like you said, especially if you're, if you're brown or black, and you may feel intimidated in those environments, because the person sitting across the table, not only may they not look like you, but like you said, they may not take you seriously, or they may not even be willing to have a conversation with you if they're like, well, what can you do for me? What have you done for me? You don't have no money I can invest. Like, but we're trying to get some money to invest.
Right.
So my goodness.
Right.
So thank you for taking that step, because it, I'm sure, has opened up the doors for a lot of people of color in particular to start having conversations about money. It's so important, even from a biblical perspective. I mean, how many times do you hear Jesus talk about money in the Bible? And we still have this weird relationship with it. So we're going to try to dispel some of that today.
Yes.
So I'm grateful that you're here. Yes. So let's start, I would say, with the younger generation, even with children. What would you say is probably the a good age to start talking to your children about money?
As soon as they can do math.
Amen.
You should start doing it. I did a session about 4 or 5 years ago at a high school. Someone asked me to come out and talk with teenagers who were getting ready to go off to college. So I said, yeah. I came out. It was a full auditorium, but more importantly, it was more adults than it was kids, because they said, hey, no one told me this when I was young, so I want to know. So I did a little activity with them, and I had them to write the budget down. So you're the child, you write the budget down, and the parent is going to kind of check and see what's right, what's wrong. What we found out is that children really think we spend the most money on the things we talk about the most. So they think food, because you're always like, okay, don't waste that food, or clothes. They had those as the biggest budget items, and things like mortgage and rent was the smallest, because they never hear about it. So I tell that story to say that you should sit down with your children as early as they can comprehend and share with them what you actually spend. Help them to understand to budget, and then that will lead to helping them to understand savings, which is something that they should start doing as they get into their 20s and things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you talk about that age in college, because I know for me, college, I grew up in a single parent household, so my mother was very vocal with me. If we didn't have money for certain things, we didn't have money for certain things. So I knew certain things like that. But as far as like really managing finances for myself and really understanding the impact of my decisions. That didn't hit for me probably until college, which like the age that you highlighted. So like, what are some things, you know, in college and, you know, even once you're entering your early 20s, like some things that steps that you should take, I should say, to start gaining financial wisdom, if you will, you know, even in that age when you're accumulating debt. Should you accumulate debt? How much debt should you accumulate? You know, should your parents co-sign? Like, that's a lot. That age to me is kind of like the passing of the baton age, where it's like trying to figure out how much responsibility you should share with your children versus how much, you know, your parents should take on, if you will.
And I have a 6-year-old. That's my oldest. And so she's in the age where she's learning how to count and identify different types of coins and how much is this. So what are some other ways that even young children, how parents can start implementing those types of financial wisdom concepts?
Okay. Yeah, great.
Let's
great,
start
great.
young and then we'll go on up.
Okay,
So, yeah.
we'll start young, we'll go up. So things that you can do with young children. One, teach them. So there's an activity I do with kids that I tell them, it's called dimes, dollars, and dividends. Okay.
Amen for dividends at a child's age. I'm like, did I know what a dividend was?
So dimes are coin, right? So teach them to save coin. That gives them the spirit of, I need to save, right? So as they find coin around, as you go to the store, you use cash and you have coin, because there's even apps now that people use as adults that, you know, it rounds it up and it puts it in a savings. So give it to them visually so that they can put it in a jar, you know, different things like that. Help them to learn that the dollar is earned. So give them a chore or something that they can do that they can earn the money.
Amen for
Okay?
earning.
Yes.
Just saying.
So even not something that they're going to do all the time, something that they'll choose, you know, so they may say, okay, I will, you know, mow the lawn if, you know, they're old enough for that, or I will, you know, sort something in a cabinet or a closet, whatever it is that they want to do that's fun for them, and you show them the earning. I also challenge parents to help children to understand their worth. So you don't tell them how much they should get, let them tell you. So they learn to negotiate salaries and their worth, you know, and if they're too low, help them to understand that, well, that's going to take a lot of time to do. So maybe you should be earning this much for that. So you can do that with young kids. And then as they get old enough to kind of understand bills and budgets, do that. Some of the middle schools are taking children down to the Chick-fil-A Foundation for the Junior Achievement, where they get to kind of live the life of, if I was a police officer, if I was a nurse, or if I was a teacher. And it helps them to understand salary that they earn and how they dispense it out.
That's cool.
To pay their bills. So they do understand at least by that age. But for the little ones, coins, dollars, dividends, you start to teach them, like if they have, hopefully they may not have a phone at 6, but
Hopefully not. Well, that's a whole nother conversation.
but something that maybe they wear, you know, show them that name brand is a company that actually makes money through investors. And when you invest in this company, you're investing when you purchase, when you buy it at the store, but you can also invest in it and then they will pay you when they're profitable. So help them to learn that at an early age. Yeah.
That's some good stuff. I feel like, wow, like some of that stuff I'm like, I didn't learn until I was in the double digits, let alone the single digits.
Yes.
I was like, wait now. But really great stuff. Like even just the whole piece about, you know, understanding your worth. Like I don't like just really that whole art of negotiating and everything. Those are things that the earlier you learn them, it just sets you up for life, like in just such an incredible way. It's good stuff. So.
I used to save my lunch money.
Yeah.
And I would just make my lunch. My parents would give me lunch money, and I would just pocket and save
There
it.
you go.
Pocket and
See?
save it
You
all
were
year
saving.
long.
Yep.
And my parents never knew. I
Hey.
was like, hey, I'm just saving my money.
There
and I
you
can
go.
use it for whatever I want.
Yeah. Even like when you were talking about coins, I know I used to take pennies and roll them up and then take them to the bank and get my dollars. And it's funny because, like I said, living in a single parent household, literally it took a village to raise me. Like my aunts and uncles, we were all in the same household at certain times. And so I would literally find like loose change in the couch from people just sitting and leaving stuff and then roll them up, take them to the bank, and then my aunts and uncles be like, "Hey, Maya, you got $1?" Sure, it's your dollar, but sure, here you go. But yeah, like those principles as far as realizing the value of coins even and how that adds up is really important. So, okay, so let's transition to the college young adult years where that baton is kind of being passed. What are some tips that you have on for parents that are, maybe having difficulty letting go or wanting to set their children up for the best, but then also for that age when you're still trying to figure things out and you are taking on more responsibility? What are some tips for gaining financial wisdom?
Okay. So at this age, they know, about budgeting. And so I really encourage, I know that transition time, especially if they're in college, money is tight. Money is tight. But what they need to be aware of is debt and not taking on too much. When you first get to college, that's when you start getting pre-approval letters for credit cards and different things like that. So this is a perfect age to help them to understand that what they do today, getting those credit cards and things like that can impact long term. I also always at every age encourage to learn how to save a small amount away. Kind of go with that 50-30-20 rule. So that's 50% of what you have, even if it's $100. You use that for your essentials. 30% is for your wants, and then 20% should be saved away. So if mom and dad is giving you $100, then you kind of put that 20 away, make that your emergency fund, right? Even at a young age, and then try to work on that 80. Because what I tend to see with parents is that they get a little frustrated that they give money to their children and then they spend it like as soon as it hits their hands. So helping them to understand longevity of the dollar is important.
Really good.
Yeah.
Great stuff. You have anything, Toya?
I was just thinking back to my years in college when the first week or two in like the commons area, there were so many banks and different people set up trying to get you to open this credit card, and I was like, I only have I think I came with like $1,200 that I worked at Waffle House over the summer, and I saved my little money, and I was like, I don't know, but I don't think I had a lot of financial wisdom with my parents telling me, don't do it. But I think I only have like one credit card as like my emergency credit card that I didn't really use. But I was just thinking back to how did I ever learn to like really do that?
Yeah. That's some good stuff. College, you're just so open. You're wide open. I know we would get like credit card pre-approvals in the bags from the store. Like the bookstore at our school, there was always a slip in the bag about a credit. I was like, what in the world? It can easily set you up for failure if you don't have that wisdom early on. So, okay, so let's talk about once you're out of college and you got that first legitimate good paying job, they got some benefits, what are some things you can do to really take advantage of that opportunity?
Okay. Well, this is an age where you need to really understand company retirement plans. And I know that at that age, you're not thinking about retirement.
Exactly.
You're thinking, I'm just trying to pay my bill.
Live your best life.
Yes, there you go. But it's really important at that age for you to look at that benefit package, and if nothing else, if there's a 401k or something that has some employer match, just do the match at least. Do the match at least. The earlier you start saving for retirement, the more you'll have in the long run. And it's coming out pre-taxed. So a lot of people don't realize that, maybe it's, even if it's $20 or $25, if the company's matching $20 or $25, that's $50. You see, that's $40 or $50 that you didn't have to put in there,
Yeah.
so don't miss out on that opportunity. So I always tell folks who are starting their first full-time job, contribute whatever the small amount is, and at least get the maximum of what the company is going to put in.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Anything else on the 20s before we transition on into the 30s?
Oh, yeah, I thought we were cresting into the 30s right
go
there.
ahead, go ahead. Well, and you're right. Nowadays, it really, you could get that like first like legitimate job in your 20s or your 30s. So, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Either or. I want to dispel a myth, because I do hear this a lot from, we'll say, mid-20s to early 30s. People will say, well, I don't want to contribute to my 401k because I don't plan to stay in this job, right? Well, it's important to know that anything you put in, you can transition and take with you. Now, the employer match may not go with you, but what you put away does.
Yeah.
So if you put $1,000 in and they put $1,000 in, your $1,000 goes with you. If you work there long enough and earn those dollars, then $2,000 can go with you. So I say still do it even if you don't plan to stay there, because that's money that you put away. And what you'll find is it's almost like when money is out of sight, out of mind, you tend to stay on plan of contributions.
That's true. That's very true. When it's automatic, even with your own personal savings, if you have that as an automatic withdrawal, it really does help. So that's a great tip.
It doesn't give you the chance to be like, well, maybe I can use it for this. If it's just automatically withdrawn.
Yeah. And I was always told to transfer it to a completely different account where it's hard for you to get the money right back, where it might take that 3 to 5 business days. Like Kevin Hart say, well, the way my account is set up,
the savings go to the checking and the checking goes to
and that gives me time to really think like, okay, do I really need this money? Is it really worth like pulling out this money? Because if I can just easily just slide it on back out when I need it, then it just makes it easy for me to spend. That's just how I am now. So
that's how most are.
Yeah. I'm just saying. So
yes.
All right. Anything else do you have anything for the 30s? Anything else we want to talk about regarding that age bracket?
The other thing that I would say, if your budget would allow it, is to start a Roth IRA.
Okay, tell us, break that down. You're speaking another language for some people. I'm just saying.
Okay, so you have a company plan, which is your 401k. If you work for a nonprofit or a school or something, maybe a 403b, it's going to start with a 4. Okay. And then outside of that, you can have an individual retirement account. That's what an IRA is, an individual retirement account, and then you have the employer.
Okay.
The reason why I say start your Roth as early as you can, there's 2 different types. There's a traditional IRA and there's a Roth IRA. A Roth IRA, whatever you put in there, as it's growing over time, it comes out tax-free.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so I'm going to say if you've built from, let's say, early 20s, even if you're putting $25 a month in there, and now you're moving into retirement, if it's $100,000 in a Roth, it's $100,000, okay, tax-free.
Okay.
If you put money in a traditional IRA, and there's reasons that you would have one or the other, but I'm encouraging people, if they're eligible for a Roth, to do a Roth. In a traditional IRA, those are considered pre-tax dollars, very similar to a 401k.
Okay.
So that means that as you start to draw it out, you have to pay some taxes on it, because they only tax $1 one time, either present day or in the future. So those dollars were never taxed in a traditional when it went in. So that then you'll have to pay the tax in the future. But with a Roth, it's tax-free. Okay.
So if you wanted to withdraw, there's no like penalty, is what you're saying? Because I know sometimes with different accounts, I'm not totally familiar with all the language.
Yeah.
I know that sometimes there's like a 20% like penalty if you withdraw.
That's a great question. So in a 401k, that 20% is happening for 2 reasons. So remember, dollar gets taxed only one time, either coming in or going out, right? So it came through your payroll, and it was never taxed.
Gotcha.
So now when you go to take it out, they have to tax it.
Gotcha.
But if you take it out before you're 59 and a half, there's a penalty on top of that. So let's say you're 40 and you take it out, they have to tax the dollar once and then penalize it for you taking it out before 59 and a half.
Wow.
So you could just wait till you're 60 and then you won't get taxed, is what you're saying?
Well, you'll still, in a 401k, you'll still get taxed one time. One time. So that's kind of the easy breakdown of that.
Okay. But with the Roth, you are basically taking it out of your net income, so it's already been taxed.
There you go. Taxed one time.
Okay.
And you're putting it in. And so that way, when you take it out, do you still have to wait till you're 59 and a half to take it out?
Oh, great question.
Okay.
So another benefit of a Roth is, let's say you put $1,000 in. That's your principal. If you take it out before 59 and a half, we're talking just the principal, then there is no penalty for that. Principal in, principal out,
Gotcha.
No penalty. If that $1,000 has grown, say to $1,500, that $500 remains tax-free as long as it stays in till you're 59 and a half.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So now let's go back to your question of age. You're 30 or 25 or whatever, and you're putting in money into your Roth. And now, age 30, you have an emergency. A lot of people go to their 401k and they pull money out and they pay all those taxes.
That's 20%.
Right. Right. But if you put it in your Roth and you have an emergency, you put in, as you said, net dollars.
Already taxed.
So you can take it out without 20%.
Got it.
Thank you for taking us to school today, Ron. like, thank you.
I know that's a lot.
understand that
I know
now.
that's a lot.
It's so
But
good,
these are
though.
these principles that you, if you learn them young, then you could be building an emergency fund inside of a Roth.
Got it. That
Very
makes
true.
sense.
Food for thought.
Very true. Oh my goodness. All right, y'all. We're gonna tell you how to hook up with Rhonda. By the end of this, you all gonna know. So great stuff. Okay, so and I know we kind of blurring the lines here, but I just wanted to kind of make sure we kind of took different age brackets into consideration. So we have anything else for the 30s before we want to move to the 40s?
No.
Okay, so let's say for someone in their 40s, what are some steps they can take to gain some financial wisdom?
Okay, so in your 40s, now your salary's pretty good. So, and if we kind of look at the journey that you've taken us on, Maya, as a child, you've learned about the dollar.
The coins.
You've learned the practice of saving. And then when you go to college, you've reiterated that practice of saving. So now you're taking in your 30s and saving it in a vessel that's going to be tax efficient.
Yep.
Okay, so now you're in your 40s. Okay, so now in your 40s, you really need to start looking at your whole comprehensive plan. I call it your buckets of money. So you're working, you're contributing to 401k, you're contributing to Roth IRA, you probably have insurances of some sort, you might have a mortgage. So you need to look at everything comprehensively now. And really at that age, you want to start looking at your insurances. Because as you age, and a lot of times people don't start thinking about their insurances until they start to get older, but premiums get really high. And so you want really, if you can afford it, to try and get it when you're younger. Take advantage of group plans at your jobs, and then a good term policy with a low premium.
Okay.
So you want to look at that.
So wait, you're talking about a lot of different insurances here. So take me through, because some people may just be thinking car insurance or health
I'm thinking
insurance
life
or
insurance,
life
but
insurance.
Are you talking about life insurance?
You probably are, but I'm saying like take us, you know what I mean? Take us through. Are you talking about life insurance specifically?
I'm talking about life insurance, yes, but also those other insurance. So it's a whole insurance kind of inventory. You want to look at all of them really, because with your health insurance, you have to start looking and saying, okay, does it have any long-term care benefits? Should I start looking at that? Not at that age. You'll start doing that in 50s. But for mortgages, cars, different things like that. Life has kind of changed, and you just want to do an inventory. I've had people who have been with the same insurance company since they were 20, and now they're 40, 20 years, never looked at their premiums because they're loyal to that brand.
Wow.
And that premium has actually creeped up over the years. So you want to look at all of it, but specifically life.
Okay. So take us through the different types of life insurance options that are out there.
Do you want to get that deep in the weeds?
Well, not too deep, but when you said term, like
Term
what does that
versus,
mean?
like, whole.
Yeah.
Yes, because we have life insurance, and I want to know the difference, or I guess the benefits of having a whole life insurance plan versus a term life insurance plan. Like, which one is better? Pros and cons of both.
Okay, pros and cons of both. You can do a whole segment on insurance.
Oh my gosh. It sounds like it. It really does. Like my head is already swimming like, whoa, okay.
Okay, so the pros and cons of term and permanent. So term is affordable. For one, normally your plan at your job is it's a group plan, and if you leave, then the insurance ends in most cases. So that's why you do a inventory, because you may have what's called portable life insurance, meaning that it goes with you. So you leave, it goes with you. It's rare circumstances, but that does happen. And in that case, that company may have a plan where it is actually a permanent plan that you're paying into. So now you see why it's important to kind of do the inventory.
Yes, very.
Pull those benefit packages out and actually go in there and look and see what it is. So a term means that after a certain period of time, that term ends, insurance ends. The reason that 40 is pivotal is because you may have started that plan, or your parent may have started that plan when you were 20, and it's a 20-year term. It may be coming to an end.
So my question is, once it comes to that end, what happens to all that money that you were paying during that 20-year term? Does it just go away? You don't get anything?
That's correct.
Shame.
That's correct. So what I find when I'm sitting down with clients is that they may have gotten insurance when they were younger, and that term is getting ready to end. Now you are older. So your premium may go up because you're older. Insurance premiums go up with age. So if you're making decisions about insurance, I always tell people, don't delay on making that decision and say, oh, I'll do it in 5 years, I'll do it in 10 years. Because every time you're waiting, that premium is going up. So 40 is a good timeline because you're still relatively healthy, right? You can still get a affordable premium. And if you do go back into another term policy, either 20-year, 25-year, or 30, right? If you're, the average is about 20, right? Then that's going to take you into retirement.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right? So that's why that's a key pivotal time. If you start to wait until your 50s, premiums go up. They start to really accelerate after age 50.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And I know I'm about to open another can of worms
I
here,
know, Maya.
but you know, that's what I do. And you'll be like, okay, we're going to have another episode. But I do want you to talk a little bit about wills and or life estate planning.
Okay, that's not the ages though.
I know, but when is a good age to do a will? Because a lot of people are like, I don't want to do it until I'm on my deathbed. Okay, go ahead.
Before you do that, you didn't explain the
whole. That's right.
Yes,
go back to the whole. We'll come back.
Okay. So with whole life, and you'll hear it coined as permanent because it's with you permanently as long as you're paying the premium. It's with you, and normally it's going to be a level premium amount that you're going to pay from the time you start the policy until mortality. And what's happening is that premium is normally going to be higher than a term policy because a portion of it is going to pay for the insurance and a portion of it is being invested inside of the policy.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so that's how the cash is building up inside of the policy. So, insurance, like I said, it can get really complicated. You could probably do a whole session on insurance, but that's the difference between the two, is that it's with you for a lifetime. So that question you asked, well, what happened to all those premiums that I paid? In a term policy, the term just ends. That's why it is a more affordable premium. With the other one, it's going to be higher, but you're investing and having insurance kind of combined inside of that policy, and that's
now with
what's
whole
happening.
life. Can you do a cash out before you're, I guess you're you die
Yeah,
out?
especially since you're investing.
Like
Yeah.
since you're investing and it's whole life
Yeah,
and you're paying more.
yeah.
So can you take cash out at some point? Like
You
if you
can.
have like an emergency. Like,
Are you penalized or?
We need a whole show
I know,
on that.
I know. We going
Sorry,
in, Rhonda.
Facebook
You can
audience.
tell we need financial wisdom. We're like, Lord help us. But go ahead, carry on.
You can under certain contracts. So, it just depends on how the contract is structured.
it.
But to answer your question, yes, but you really need to look at how the contract is structured.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Wow.
Does
good
that
stuff.
answer? Does that
It
answer?
does.
Okay.
It does. Like you said, I know it's the tip of the iceberg, but yeah, it gives us a great insight, and if there's further research we need to do on our own, or maybe we just need to have you back, then hey, so we have a good idea of, where to start at least. So as far as wills, estate planning, what's a good age to really start thinking about that?
Okay. Well, once you have some assets to actually bequeath.
Okay.
Right. So a 20-year-old.
Yeah, not a yeah.
And the reason why I say once you have assets, it's about the assets. It's not about the age.
Gotcha.
So you could be, name an entertainer who's making millions of dollars and they're in their 20s. They need a will.
Gotcha.
Right. And then you can have someone who's 60 with very little assets and they could just put people on as beneficiaries and retitle their homes and things like that, and they may not need a full elaborate estate plan.
So life insurance is essential, but as far as a will, really that is dependent upon your assets.
Well, everybody should have a will
Okay.
of some sort, but an elaborate estate plan
Gotcha.
is based on your assets.
That makes sense.
That does. Wow. All right. Anything else for 40s before we go on into 50s? I know you're like no. All right. Talk to us about 50s, and we'll for the sake of time, we'll say 50s and beyond. If there are any key steps that people over the age of 50 should take to gain financial wisdom.
Okay, good. So at 50, now you're cresting on the the heels of retirement. So it's really about that. I say that is a ideal age if you have not already established a relationship with a financial professional to help you sort things out, because you can see it could get there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle.
Really.
And when you are in what I call your accumulation years, meaning you're putting money in your buckets, right? 401k, Roth, savings, all that stuff. You're putting it all in the bucket. Now you need someone to help you kind of strategize and say, okay, what do I do with all these buckets? So that's a good age to start interviewing and looking for someone to work with professionally. But more importantly, they're going to tell you, are you on track for retirement? And so you want to take advantage of what's called catch-ups. So there are already rules and regulations in place for retirement accounts where you can do catch-ups. So in your 401k, they give you an extra amount of money that you can put away in your 401k that someone under 50 can't to help you catch up and get on track if you didn't plan earlier. Same with IRAs. Same thing. This is also a good time if you're homeowners to look at your mortgage and start to look at your debt picture.
Okay.
So that journey we took, if you were prudent with your, debt young and learn not to, accumulate too much, then when you're in your 50s, you're going to start paying it down because you're really using that 50 to 60 to start formulating your life to be on a fixed income. Right. Fixed income is not a bad word. Some people think that means I don't have enough money. Fixed income just means I know exactly how much I am going to pay for everything. It's not so much in that what we call discretionary bucket. The kids are normally older, so you don't have to think about that you might have to be paying for them. Your routine in life starts to get a little bit more predictable. So yeah, so pay down your debt, look at your mortgages, revisit your insurances if you need to, and take advantage of your catch-ups.
Now, what about the woman or the person who's like, when I retire, I want to travel the world. What does a fixed income look like for something like that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, are you able to factor in, like, to me, I was just listening. I'm like, how do you factor in, like, fun? How do you factor in, like, life?
It's
like,
fixed.
I know.
So that's what your financial professional does for you.
Okay.
So let's just say after you boil down everything and you're like, okay, mortgage will be falling off soon, et cetera, you actually pad in inside the budget. How often do you want to travel?
Gotcha.
How much do you want to spend when you travel? Are you going abroad? We're in coronavirus territory.
I know. But not always, not forever now.
But we do that. Like when I sit down with someone, they actually have that in there. Now, if they've started early enough, at age 50, they will have some surplus,
That's good.
and they can do, have their retirement toys, extra vacations, all that kind of stuff. But that's part of the conversation.
Okay. Wow. Great stuff. Oh my goodness. I hope y'all are getting as much as I am, because I'm like, we could talk for a couple of hours on this one. So I did want to highlight specific tips for married couples, because of course I know that could, happen or involve any age group that we've talked about so far. But are there any tips that you have specifically for married couples, steps that they can take, as they are trying to operate as one, trying to be good stewards over their resources as one? Like, what are some, key steps that you can give for married couples to operate in financial wisdom?
Okay. So with couples, it's all about goals. It's all about goals. You should sit down and each person, share what's important to them. When I meet with couples, I have them fill out separately. I say, okay, spouse, what's important to you? Write down the top 3 that are important to you in the order in which they are important to you. Other spouse, do the same. And then we bridge those together, right? So that they're always working towards a long-term goal. That's something that's going to be on into the future.
Okay.
And then a short-term goal that they're trying to do within 12 to 24 months.
Okay.
It's really important for couples to have emergency funds. Because I'm often asked questions like, well, should we have separate bank accounts? Should we have, joint bank accounts? How many bank accounts should we have? Like I get those questions all the time. That's really the preference of the relationship, to be honest with you. I do encourage to have one account that focuses on paying all the bills for the house. And then it's really up to your preference on what you want to do with the other. But if you have goals, then you can have an account that matches that goal.
That's very good.
Right? So it kind of takes away from that's my account and this is his account or her account or whatever the case may be. This is our vacation account. You see what I'm saying? And what are we saying that we are going to contribute to that systematically? And it keeps us on track. And then with the bills, what do we need budget-wise to pay our bills? And making sure that we're contributing what needs to go in, and then having a little bit of surplus in there as well. So it's all about goals with
Very
couples.
good. Very
That
good.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for all the financial wisdom that you're sharing with us.
Yeah.
So now it's time for our Noble Character segment. So if you know of a woman that you want to give praise to, a shout out, or recognize for making a difference in their family, their neighborhood, or on their job, then please go to our website at becomingevatoday.com and submit their name in the Noble Character tab. And so since we have you today, we're going to give you the honor of choosing our Noble Character today.
Okay. Well, I would like to recognize, her name is Rhonda Jones, and she is a minister at her church. She does a lot in her community, and most recently, she started a business. It is called IamNicoleDJones.com, and what she focuses on, it's called Meal Plan. Now, when you hear that word, it sounds like food, right? But it's actually an acronym. M stands for mindset. E stands for education, which we're doing today. A is accountability. We need that as women. And then L is lifestyle. And we've talked a lot about this as well. And so she does things for women in the community to help them really have a holistic look at life. So
that's awesome. Well, shout out to Nicole Jones. Yes, thank you for being our noble character acknowledgement this week. Awesome. Okay. And then we're going to talk about our BE challenge for this week. So for our BE challenge, I'm sure, you know, if you experienced anything that I experienced over the course of this last 40 so minutes, like there have been a lot of nuggets of financial wisdom that have been dropped. So the BE challenge for this week is to find one step that you can take to gain more financial wisdom. It may be opening a savings account if you don't have one, or if you're married, and maybe, okay, let's do that exercise that you just talked about as far as writing out your top 3 goals each so that you can be on one accord and determining what those goals are, you know, or if you aren't contributing to a 401k, you know, maybe start contributing to your 401k, or find out if your company matches, you know. There's so many different nuggets that you drop during this time, you know, the whole 50, 30, 20 rule, you know, like that whole thing, if you're not incorporating that in your regular spending, your regular budgeting. So find one of those nuggets and apply them to your life, to your financial life, you know, this week. Find it and, you know, take some steps to apply it. And we want to hear about it. You know, we want to know what you learned, if anything, what you want to learn more about. If there are some things where you're like, gosh, you guys really just scratched the surface and I really want to learn more about that area, let us know, you know. And then if there are certain steps that you've taken as a result of this episode, we want to know that too. So that is our BE challenge.
Revisit our life insurance and make sure that we're making the best decision as it relates to either term or whole life. So that's definitely something that I'm going to do this week with my husband. But in closing, our next episode will be March the 27th, and we'll be talking about personal branding and entrepreneurship. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on the podcast app. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook at Becoming Eva, one word. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Becoming Eva Today. See you soon.
Bye.